Uh, Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and I'm excited to have Guy Kawasaki, who's the chief evangelist of Canva and the host of the Remarkable People podcast. Earlier, Guy was the chief evangelist of Apple and also a Mercedes-Benz brand ambassador. Guy has done his bachelor's from Stanford University and MBA from UCLA, and he just launched his new book, Think Remarkable. Welcome to the show, Guy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. So, last time we spoke, it was, 5 years back. You came up with your book. We had COVID. A lot of things have happened, uh, but I got a lot of people saying that how I was able to get Guy Kawasaki. So you don't have the you don't have any obligation to come on my podcast, but you still came, and it really changed how my podcast fared. So thank you so much for
I'm glad to
being kind.
help. Listen,
Yeah.
over and over in my career, basically, I always default to yes. So like a lot of people, they say, who's been on your podcast, how many downloads, blah, blah, blah. I don't even check. You ask, I probably say yes. I don't. Like my experience is you never know, and someday you may have the most popular podcast in the world, or
Yeah.
you might be CEO of, I don't know, Porsche, and you're gonna just send me a 911. Who knows what's gonna happen? So just keep saying yes.
Yeah, I like that and that attitude, and uh, y- you know, there's something about a guy's golden touch, which is whatever is gold, guy touches. So how do you get that touch? How can anybody get that touch and everything into opportunities?
Well, I mean, the point of Guy's Golden Touch, which is not that what I touch turns to gold. The point is whatever is gold, I touch. So my message there is that if you want to be a great marketer or great evangelist, great salesperson, sell good stuff, evangelize good stuff.
Yeah,
Because it's really hard to evangelize crap.
yeah,
So, I mean, this seems like a simple thing, right? But you'd be amazed how many people try to use evangelism or marketing for stuff that's just crappy and it doesn't work. And it's not necessarily the fault of your marketing or evangelism. It may just be that your product sucks. And, evangelism cannot overcome a sucky product.
yeah. No, totally. I totally get that. And you started the Remarkable People podcast. What's been your learning about building a podcast, and
Oh,
what's
well.
your
So Remarkable People podcast, which is the basis of this book,
yeah.
has been going on for about 4.5 years. So we have about 200 something episodes.
Wow.
And, I thought the hard part was going to be getting guests. And then the hard part would be figuring out what to ask. And then the hard part would be editing. And then the hard part would be deploying. But come to find out, all of those things are not so hard. It's the getting subscribers and
True.
marketing. That's the hard part. And I'll be perfectly honest. I don't have the answer for that, because if I had the answer for that, I would have way more subscribers.
Yeah, but any lessons that you learned? I think I've seen your YouTube channel. It has grown in the last couple of years. But any insights
Yeah,
on
but I mean, you always see these stories like I went from 500 followers to 500,000 in 2 months. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? I don't understand. I mean, and maybe it's just blind dumb shit luck. And I I tell you, if I figure it out, I'll let you know. But I really don't know. And this is kind of the reverse of Guy's Golden Touch, because there is no doubt in my mind that my podcast is absolutely one of the best podcasts in the world.
sure,
Okay. With
yeah,
the kind of guests I have, like Jane Goodall, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Stephen Wolfram, Angela Duckworth, Bob Cialdini, Christy Yamaguchi. I mean, you couldn't get better guests.
sure,
And I know I ask good questions, and I know I have good editors. So it's not the product, it's the marketing.
yeah. Yeah, totally. But I've seen your social media channels. You got millions of followers on Twitter
Yeah.
and LinkedIn. What advice would you give to people who would want to grow their distribution channels and distribution networks and add more?
Well, okay. Man, you're asking all the hard questions. So I have, I don't know, a total of, I don't know, 6 or 7 million followers.
Yeah,
Now, you would think with 6 or 7 million followers, you tell everybody, okay, I have a new book, and you say, let's be conservative. So I have 6 million followers, at least 10% going to buy the book. So 600,000 copies of the book. Let me tell you something. I ain't close to 600,000 yet.
yeah,
And it used to be when you had millions of followers, if you said, read this book, read this article, go to this restaurant, I mean, you could really move the needle. I
yeah.
don't think that's true anymore. It's not true for me. I don't think it's true for anybody. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe if you're Taylor Swift and you say, buy this lipstick, okay,
Yeah,
everybody goes and buys the lipstick. But
right.
if Guy Kawasaki, well, I will never tell you what lipstick to buy, but if Guy Kawasaki tells you, go buy this book, I don't know if I can move the needle, even for my own book.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I've read this book, Think Remarkable, great book. But what inspired you to write Think Remarkable? I thought Wise Guy was like was your autobiographical book. That's your last book. But
Yeah.
what
Well,
inspired you to write this one?
so as I said, I now have a couple hundred episodes. So
Yeah.
that's 200, 250 hours of podcast. And we write a transcription for every podcast. That's probably 5,000 pages of transcriptions. But no one's going to listen to 200 hours or 250 hours, and no one's going to read 5,000 pages of transcripts. So it was our burden to take all that and reduce it down to about 170 pages.
Okay.
And you could probably read this book in 8 hours.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is capture all this great information and inspiration and give it back to you in a very, very easy to digest format.
Correct. Correct. And uh, yeah, the first couple of chapters is about growth mindset, and
Yeah.
you talk about you wrote your first book, which is the Macintosh Way in 1987. Now you're on to your 16th book. So how do you go about building that sort of growth mindset, and how do you
Yeah.
keep on adding those sort of skill sets all the time?
Well, for me, I first became aware of the concept of the growth mindset by reading Carol Dweck's book,
Mm,
Mindset. And that
right.
was early 2000s. So, at that point, I was still 40 something years old. And that's the first time I said, you know what? She's right. There are some people with a growth mindset. There are some people with a fixed mindset. And Guy, you have had a fixed mindset in the past. And it was as if she just took the covers off my eyes and showed me a new way. So I think much of the battle can be that, let me tell you something. If you think you cannot try things and succeed, if you are afraid of risk and all that, what it means is you have a fixed mindset, and a fixed mindset is not good to make a difference and be remarkable. And sometimes it just takes that telling you that, hey, there is another way. So that's the start.
Got it. And during your research, you've spoken to a lot of great entrepreneurs and investors. What is the trait that you find in common with most of these remarkable people?
Well, for sure. I've divided the book into 3 parts.
Yeah,
And these remarkable people have all 3 parts, which is a growth mindset, that they're willing to try new things. They have an attitude of grit, that
yeah,
they're willing to work very hard for a long time. And finally, towards the end of their lives and careers, they embrace a grace and graciousness. So they believe that they have the obligation to pay back society and to help other people succeed. And I think those 3 qualities define a remarkable person.
got it. And uh, I think all these qualities are really important. And since you build multiple skill sets, how do you go about planting those seeds so that uh, you're able to capitalize on that, and and also, should you focus on one skill at a time, or can you also build multiple skills at the same time?
I think that, well, everybody's different, but step one is understanding the growth mindset, understanding the fixed mindset and the disadvantages of that. And then this book is extremely tactical, right? So it's like every section has bullet items on what to do, take foreign languages, meet diverse people, all those kind of tactical things. So this book and my writing style in general, it's not at a quote unquote high level. It's like sometimes you read a book and it says, oh, you need to be innovative to be successful. And then you think about that for 5 minutes, you say, shit, I knew that. Or like, what? I just read a book to tell me I need to be innovative to be successful. So the hard part is not figuring out you need to be innovative. The hard part is, how do you innovate?
Yeah,
That's the question.
true.
And I answer that question in this book. So
Correct. And you also talk about, to do epic shit in life, So, a lot of people talk about big things, but how do you actually do epic shit? Is about really doing the grunt work, and then,
well, listen, the honest answer is, I think that in many cases, you start doing a very simple thing, like, I'm going to make a few motherboards for this computer club, right? That's Waz's attitude. He makes a few motherboards, he sells a few. And now, 20 something years, 30 years later, it's Apple, the most valuable company. Now,
yeah,
I guarantee you that when Steve Wozniak started Apple, he wasn't saying to himself, how do I create $1 trillion market cap company? He was thinking, how do I sell 20 of these motherboards to other geeks like me? So I think that's how it works, that you start small and you're like a little acorn, and then 20 years later you're an entire oak tree. And it's in the acorn from the start, but you got to plant a lot of acorns to get an oak. It's not 100%. So that's just what it is. And I think entrepreneurs should take the pressure off themselves, that they think they have to build the next Apple, they have to build the next Tesla. If it were that simple, everybody would build the next Apple or Tesla.
yeah.
Now, venture capitalists may have these delusions that they can pick the next Apple or Tesla, but let me tell you something: venture capitalists are wrong 99% of the time. So, if it were a science, more people would do it. Trust me.
Got it. And in the book you also talk about, it's rather than creating a category, it's better to create a subcategory. Somebody who's listening to this, how should they look at building a subcategory within, like, say, an
Yeah.
Airbnb or an
Okay.
Uber
So,
model?
this is the work of David Ockert that I describe in the book. And what he's saying is that it's so hard and so rare to create a category, because you would have to explain to people why this thing that they never heard of now should exist, right? So let's take cars. So with cars, I guarantee you it was hard enough, but it was much easier to create a subcategory called minivans, or a subcategory called SUVs, or a big subcategory called electric cars, than to create a new category beyond cars that's different from cars, right? So if you're going to create a new, it's it's easier to create a new computer, because everybody knows what a computer is. But if people didn't know what your new category is, you have to explain to them the category and your device, and that's just too hard. So, this book is not the first in a new category. It is in a category that already exists, And I want that subcategory of people who want to be remarkable and make a difference.
Got it. Got it. So super interesting. And you also talk about, how do you get mentors? So what I found challenging is like you can't really go up and tell somebody that you want to become. Can you become my mentor? I think it's more better to ask them for feedback and build that sort of relationship. But for young listeners, if they want to look up to a mentor, what is your advice to them to, how do you find good mentors?
Well, I think that listen, mentors are great people because they can help you avoid a lot of mistakes. But finding a mentor and actually getting the mentor is a very difficult process.
Yeah.
And actually, it's good that it's a difficult process, because if it were easy, mentors would be overloaded. So it's good that you really have to stand out. So it takes a lot of background research. I mean, if somebody said, yeah, Guy, will you mentor me? And I said, so yeah, sure. So, what field are you in? And they said, oh, um, I'm an eye surgeon. I would say, like, well, how can I be your mentor? I don't know anything about eye surgery. So
Sure.
it has to be somebody relevant. And I would also advise you that many times you should ask the people who seem the busiest, which
Hmm.
is contrary to logic. You would think you would ask the person who's not busy to be your mentor. But the danger there is that there may be a reason why that person is not busy, which is that person is either not good or an asshole. So there, ask people who are busy, and you still might get turned down. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's the shot. And then when you ask people to be your mentor, and God help you if they say yes, do not waste their time.
Hmm.
Do not ask dumb shit questions that you should have been able to answer yourself. That is a waste of time. So, and if it's been answered someplace else, don't ask your mentor. If I mentor you, don't ask me what it was like to work for Steve Jobs. Just freaking use Google. Figure that out yourself. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Totally get that. And Guy, you've been a great storyteller. Is there any framework that you use to do storytelling, or
Yeah.
yeah,
The only framework I use is it's the truth. I don't
yeah,
make shit up. I don't make shit up. And uh, part to get good stories, you gotta be in the game, right? You gotta be shucking and jiving, you gotta be moving and grooving. If you're just sitting alone staring at your Unix monitor, you ain't gonna get a lot of good stories. So you
yeah.
have to be out there. You have to put yourself out there. That's just the way it is.
Right, right. And but I went to B school, and obviously we talked about Guy Kawasaki's 10 20 30. uh, use 10 slides in 20 minutes with 30 size font. Is that still relevant when we are pitching out to VCs and for any sort of pitches? Obviously we use the same framework.
Listen, I haven't pitched to a VC in a long time, and I
Yeah.
have no intention of ever pitching to a VC again. But I mean, I don't know what's different. I mean, you need to be short, and you need to be sweet, and you need to be. I mean, I can't. I'm thinking, like, what could have changed? Well, maybe people are going to start sticking your PowerPoint files into Chat GPT. So maybe you need to optimize for Chat GPT. I can understand that, but I mean, I see no intellectual case why now you should use 80 slides and use 6-point font and, take 3 hours to present it. Nothing has changed about those things.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And since COVID, what has happened is people have started either working in hybrid settings or into remote settings. Um, and the biggest challenge is like, how do you manage up or manage down? Especially, there's a lot of discussions about how do you manage a team, your who reporting to you. But what is your advice, or how do you manage your boss up? Any pointers on that?
Well, first of all, I think that using Zoom is a skill, just like any other skill.
Right.
And so in this world that it's going to be hybrid, maybe forever,
Yeah.
you just need to learn how to use Zoom well. And it's simple things like, don't look at the video image thinking you're looking into somebody's eyes. You have to look at the camera, not at the video, right? Unless you have a teleprompter. I have a teleprompter. So right now, I think I'm looking in your eyes,
Yeah.
but I'm really looking in the camera, right?
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, that's one trick, but not everybody does that, right?
Yeah.
Simple things like that. And if you're a manager, you need to invest in some technology. Your image should be crystal clear. You should be probably using a digital camera, not the built-in camera in your laptop. I mean, there's these things that are pretty simple, but a lot of people don't do them. And then I also believe that management is always difficult. So it's not like before the pandemic and before remote work, management was easy and everybody had it perfected. And then, the pandemic screwed everything up and we're all learning again. I mean, it was screwed up back then too. So it's no different.
Right.
But now you just have to, I could make the case that you might be able to be a better manager with Zoom, because if you have a worldwide team, how often are you flying to London to meet with your European team? And then you got to go to Beijing and Shanghai. I mean, I would make the case that Zoom is better than seeing your team once a year.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I think that has helped in the last couple of years for people to do more meetings over Zoom, but there's also Zoom fatigue, which happens because you're not meeting your colleagues or people that often.
Yeah.
Um, and just to follow up on that, what's been you've had a lot of people in your career, but what's been your biggest lesson when it comes to hiring, or any mistakes that you made when you looked at hiring people in your team?
Yeah. I think the mistake that most people make is they hire people who are similar to them,
Yeah,
right? So if you're white, male, Ivy League educated, guess who you hire, right?
yeah,
But what you should hire is male, black,
or female.
state school educated.
Yeah,
I mean, you need diversity. There's a
true.
reason why diversification helps. It brings you more viewpoints. It brings you more kind of outlooks and perspectives that if everybody was a Yale male graduate, man, you're headed for, well, I guess if you're a private equity company or a hedge fund, yeah, make them all white males from Ivy League, because quite frankly, you're not contributing to society anyway. So I don't give a shit. But if you want a company that reflects true consumerism, you need a diverse team.
Got it. Nice. And I read somewhere that you quit Apple twice. You turned Steve Jobs for a third job. You also turned down Sequoia Capital to be chance to become a CEO of Yahoo. So as you get older in life, you have those sort of regrets. But how do you keep away from those regrets and have a positive attitude and keep moving forward and keep learning from those mistakes that you made in career?
Could you repeat that question? That didn't come through.
Yeah, sorry, sorry. So what I meant, I read somewhere that you quit Apple, you turned down Steve Jobs for a job, and you also turned down a job to be the CEO of Yahoo. So as you grow older in life, how do you manage
Well, I
regrets?
mean, luckily, those mistakes, I have compensated for them. Now, it literally may be luck, okay, but
Yeah,
I'll tell you that, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement address, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Because if you could connect the dots looking forward, everybody would have an optimal life.
yeah,
It's just not possible. And, you know, take a real extreme example. Let's say you work for Theranos and now your COO and CEO are in jail and Theranos is gone and it was a huge fraud and all that. And you're thinking, oh my God, I'm tarnished by working for Theranos. But you probably learned a very valuable lesson that someone who worked for a company that went straight to the moon will never know, which is about honesty and responsibility to shareholders. And what should you do when you see that the product is not working but your marketing people are lying and saying it is. And I think that if you worked at Theranos, you would have a lot of lessons that you may not have gotten if you just went straight to work for Facebook or Google.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked about technology and ChatGPT. How do you see the use of technology and AI
Yeah.
impact the principles?
I can tell you that nobody believes in AI more than me. It has made me a much better writer. I use it almost every day. And my take on this is that my moral obligation is to create the best podcast and best book that I can.
Yeah.
And if that means using an LLM, so be it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people are saying, "Oh, I want to listen to a podcast that doesn't use AI at all." I mean, does that make any sense to you? I mean, you want to get the best pictures, the best text, the best podcast, the best everything. And I mean, it's like, is it any different when you say, oh, that CEO is a great speaker? Well, that great CEO has a team of speechwriters.
True.
So what's the difference between using a speechwriter and ChatGPT to write your presentation? I don't see any difference.
Yeah. And what's been your process for writing the book? Obviously you would have used AI, but did it take you a couple of years to think through the
Well,
process of?
what we did is we printed out every transcript. So this is 4,000 pages. And
Oh,
we went through the transcript and we're looking for key messages. And we would just highlight the key message with a post-it pad. And then we would look through all the messages and take notes on the messages and lessons. And we spent about 6 or 7 months putting that into an outline.
oh.
And then we started writing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I read a very interesting thing on your book, which is that you lost a bit of your hearing, and
Yes.
when you're doing those podcasts, you would read transcripts. So my apologies for my Indian accent if I'm not, yeah, that's what my accent is. But is it difficult to? It's always, I mean, difficult to do a podcast where it's difficult for you to hear, but. Thank you for being vulnerable, but
Well,
it was
I
amazing.
mean, if you didn't know I was deaf based on this conversation we've been having, it would not occur to you that I'm deaf, right?
Yeah, no,
Now, partially this is because of the miracle of a cochlear implant. So a cochlear implant takes you from being deaf to having lousy hearing. It doesn't take you to perfect hearing, but to go from not hearing anything to hearing lousy is a big step. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of a miracle. Now, there was a brief time where I was more or less deaf and I was trying to do a podcast, and I would really have to rely on Chrome's live transcriptions.
right,
So even right now, Chrome is transcribing what you're saying. So it helps me understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
I mean, it's just you got to use the tools at your disposal. And if you're deaf, you use a cochlear implant. If you cannot type, you use transcription. I mean, that's
yeah.
that's what people who want to make a difference do. They don't look for excuses to fail. They look for ways to overcome problems.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's what inspires me, and that's why you're the great, you're the great guy Kawasaki, because you turn obstacles into opportunities. But But what's next for you after Think Remarkable? Do you have more books?
Oh, I don't, I've said this is my last book 15 times now, so I can say 16 times this is my last book. Uh, I don't know. I calculated that I've written 16 books since 1987 till 2024. So that's 37 years. So in 37 years, I wrote 16 books. So every 2.5 years or so, I write a book.
Yeah.
And I write a book when I have something to say. So I guess it takes me 2.5 years to figure out something new to say. So I'll check with you in 2.5 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really looking forward to your next book again. Um, Guy, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book. Uh, my favorite business book may actually be it may be Stanley McChrystal's book called Risk, in which he explains how leaders deal with risk. So Stanley McChrystal's book is one. My favorite book in general is a book called If You Want to Write by Brenda Ullin, because it helped me break through my doubts of being a writer. And then Mindset by Carol Dweck helped me, open my mind to taking risks. So between those three books, I would, and then one more, Influence by Bob Cialdini. So if I were a business person, if I were CEO, I would read Stanley McChrystal's book. I would read Bob Cialdini's book about influence and persuasion. I mean, those two for sure. And if I was an independent creative person, I would want to read If You Want to Write by Brenda Ullin.
Yeah, no, I think all of them are great books. We'll put that in the show notes. And, if you could go back in time when you started writing Think Remarkable, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently?
If I were to go back in time, you mean a couple years and write
Yeah,
Think Remarkable again?
yeah. If you want to write the book again, uh, is it something you would have done differently?
There's one place so far I would have done something different, which is I talk about the growth mindset
Yeah.
by Carol Dweck. I also think that I learned this from Carol Dweck's protege after the book was done. Her name is Mary Murphy. And what I learned is a mindset is more or less in your head, but it's also important to realize that you need to be in a growth mindset environment. So if the company you work for doesn't believe in growth and change and diversity, you're going to be very unhappy. So it's not just what's in your head. You need to look for places that embrace the growth mindset.
Got it. No, no, absolutely. Totally makes sense. And what's your favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
Uh I am such a slave to email that it's probably the mail app from Apple, but I've used 4 or 5 different email apps and none of them make me happy. They just, I don't know. There's just, and okay, so that's one thing. So I don't believe there's a great email app out there. And the second thing that just amazes me is that contact management and calendaring sucks in 2024. I don't understand why there are not better calendars
Yeah.
and better contact management in 2024. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, the couple of tools like Calendly and,
Yeah.
cal.com and a few others, but yeah, I
Well,
think
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. So with Gmail, let's say you like Gmail because you can use all the add-ons and extensions if you're in the Chrome browser. So you use Gmail as opposed to an email client. But I swear to God, I don't understand. Why can't I sort on the from field in Gmail?
Yeah.
Because you know what? That is so important, right? So for like scheduling a podcast, let's say that you are the person, and to schedule a podcast, I bet it takes 5 or 6 different emails going back and forth. Like,
Yeah, true.
you know, we would love to have a guy. We would love to be on. These are the dates I'm free. These are the dates we accept. You know, now I'm sending you the Zoom link. You know, so there's like 5 or 10 emails, right?
True.
And you don't, you know, when you get them in your inbox, you don't want to delete them because everything is not set yet. You need to keep those in your inbox. But then once it's set, and certainly once the recording has happened, now there's 10 emails from the same person for this podcast recording, right? So now there's 10 of these, and like at any given moment, I have 10 basic podcast schedules going on where either I'm the guest, and then there's probably another 10 where I'm trying to get a guest. There's probably, so it's 10 times 20. So it's probably 200 emails in my inbox. And the day that the podcast is over, all of them can be archived, right?
Yeah.
And the best way to archive that is look from the podcaster, because all those things, are you interested? Yes, I'm interested. These are the dates I'm available. Yes, I'll take that one. Here's the Zoom link. Thank you very much. Is it going to be audio or video, or is it going to be both? And like all those emails, if you could sort them by the from, you could archive like 10 or 20 at a time, right?
True.
So how is it in 2024? Nobody in Google who uses Gmail has figured out, you know something, sorting by the from is very useful. Also, let's say that you really got me started. You might regret this. So let's say that you send multiple people the same subject line, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, would you like to be on my podcast? Or would you like a review copy of my book?
True.
So you know how useful it would be if you could sort by subject line, so that all the people responding to your email asking if you'd like a copy of my book, they're all in one place, as opposed to sorted by the date received, which is the only way.
Yeah.
So now you can look, oh, these are all the people that want my book. And it's because the subject line is the sort field. How can it be in 2024 that nobody inside of Google has figured out, maybe we should offer people the ability to sort on any field that they want, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you want to sort on the company field because you want to answer all the people from Google at one time. I mean, there's so many use cases for this. How the hell is it that that isn't true? I don't understand. I don't even know how we got on this subject, but you may regret now putting me on this subject, but that's
no,
just in case someone from Google is listening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We should clip this and send it to the Gmail product team.
All righty.
Yeah, guy. And what are the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Think Remarkable?
Well, there's several answers to that question. So first of all, I'm Guy Kawasaki at Gmail. That's the easiest, right?
Yeah.
I don't hide my email address. I'm Guy Kawasaki at Gmail. Send me an email. See if I answer.
I got an answer. Yeah.
You know, my book is everywhere online. And I mean, if you cannot find my book to buy, you probably don't know how to use the internet. It ain't going to be that hard. All righty.
Got it.
So, if you're out there listening and you want to make a difference and you want to be remarkable and you need some help in these processes, I'm telling you, I wrote the best book ever to help you do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one great book. It's a very easy read, and I totally loved it. I've listened to some of your podcasts. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
onto the
you.
pod,
Thank you.
guy.
All the
You've
best to
been you've
you.
been special. Thank you.
Oh, and I'm going to send you a link. Let me see here. We have chat in here, right? Let's see.